G'day guys, welcome to another episode of the Feed My Mind podcast, and I'm very excited today to be joined by, if not one of the greatest AFL players to ever play the game, Anthony Koutoufides. So Anthony, thank you for being on the show.
No worries, very nice start to that. One of the greatest, I'm not sure about that, but anyway, I'll take it.
I reckon one of the greatest. You're definitely one of my childhood heroes growing up. I was a Carlton supporter. I had a Anthony Koutoufides flag. I had 43 on the back of my jumper. So
did I.
Yeah. So very excited to have you on the show. So we'll get started. Really interested to know, you were one of the greatest football players in terms of your physical prowess. So I was reading up a little bit about you, and I think from your background, you were really good at athletics when you were younger. You were a high jumper, and then you moved into football. So I'm really keen to understand how you got into football and your journey into fitness.
Yeah, I think there was a perception that I took up footy in a later stage of my life when I started to become a footballer there in the AFL, but it was incorrect. I mean, I started playing football at the age of 8. Migrant parents fell in love with the oval ball with my oldest brother, Paul. We went down a local footy club, just loved the game, and I continued playing it. Had a lot of success in my junior years. I actually, at the age of 14, got the letter from the Carlton Football Club, but I was a mad Collingwood supporter. I was a little bit disappointed, but we lived in the Carlton zone.
Yep. So
that's when my journey sort of started, the Carlton days. But in the summer, my brother started athletics, and so I watched him for half a year compete before I had the courage to get out there, and I was quite a natural. So by the time I was in grade 5, state high jump champion. Always loved the high jump, became national champ under 15, under 16. Lost my under 17 title to Tim Forsyth, but then I ran 110 metre hurdles, got the Australian record, became Australian champion, and then had to give away my beloved athletics. But I won a lot of multi-events, which is like the decathlon. So maybe potentially could have gone on to be an Olympian, maybe as a hurdler, maybe as a decathlete, definitely not as a high jumper.
Mm-hmm. So at what point in time did you decide to switch from athletics and say, I'm really going to pursue football?
I got the call from the Carlton Football Club at the age of 17 to come in, and they offered myself a contract for 3 years. It was minimal money, but my dream as a young kid was to be an Olympian or be a footballer. And so when Carlton offered me the money, I thought I had a better chance in making it in footy than trying to become a world champion in athletics. A bit more lonely, and the team aspect, knowing that I'd be here in Melbourne. And to me, football was like a religion growing up. And so to me, all my idols were here in Melbourne, Victoria. Although I love the international athletes, there's nothing better than your local heroes. So that's the reason why I decided to choose football.
Yep, for sure. So let's talk a little. I'm really interested to hear more about your fitness and your training back then.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you compare the physique of yourself, back in the 90s compared to a lot of other players, you were in absolutely tip-top shape.
Yep.
So maybe run us through what your training regime looked like, just from a club level, and not sort of anything that you might have done at a personal level as well.
I came as an athlete, being a national champ. I guess I had. My skin folds were probably the lowest in the club out of everyone when I first turned up. I had the abs. I was a skinny kid, never really did weights. I did all body stuff, plyometric stuff, which is really demanding. And nowadays, when you look at young kids, you just look at their shape and you go, I'm not sure if you're quite ready for that stuff. But we were, back in our day, it was a different lifestyle. We were out in the park, as you would know, and for jumping over things and climbing things. And, we did all those sort of things. So our bodies were a little bit different.
Yep.
We didn't just sit at home playing on our phones like the kids do nowadays. And so I came in as an athlete, and obviously being a national champion high jumper previously, I could jump.
Yep.
I could bound. So anytime there was any athletic sort of thing that we did drill at the club, I just sort of stood out, not just, but by a lot.
Yep.
But in saying that too, Amph, I never had endurance going into the footy club. And so back then I felt like I lost a lot of my athleticism, because the old school back then was the more kilometres you run, the fitter you are. And we were running 8-10 kilometres. My knees started hurting when we did 50, 100. So as a young kid, I've gone from never running more than 200 metres, unless I did the decathlon. I did the 400 and 1500, but never enjoyed them.
Yep.
To all of a sudden running kilometres and then doing 50, 100s. It had a major impact on my body, and the body started to break down a little.
At what stage did it start to break down? Was it when younger or more sort of towards your mid and end career?
No, at the start of the footy journey, really, I started getting tendonitis in the knee, and so I couldn't jump like what I used to. And so from jumping 2 metres 8 as a junior, that first pre-season, I didn't even want to go to training. I just wanted to go and do athletics on the Saturday. And so the first Saturday club training, I just didn't even turn up. I went to do athletics again because I missed it, and I jumped probably metre 80. So it had like straight away an impact on my athleticism. And we'll probably touch on today's game, but I dare say if I walked in as good an athlete as what I was with back yesteryears, I would have walked into a program now that probably would have suited me even more.
Why do you think that is? Because we were talking before about obviously the change in the fitness of AFL players over the last sort of 10, 20 years. It's what do you think's changed in terms of the program that you were doing, say in the 90s and 2000s versus what you think's happening now?
I dare say obviously a lot's changed. You can tell by their body shape, they're completely different to the way we were. We were a lot bigger, had a lot more muscle. We were, that one pace running more so when I first started in 1991, and now they're athletes, so they change. They train completely different to the way that we did. I mean, they would never do 5100s, and if anything, they might do 1 to 1.5 kilometre time trials, maybe 2 maximum. When we were doing 6 and even more, sort of 6 to 8K time trials. So they're a lot different. Like I dare say, but when they're training now, they're training a full 100% in, boom, speed, and I love that sort of training. That's what it really suits me. So it's like speed, fast, hard, rest for 10, and then off you go again. That lactic acid sort of training and high intensity, you can tell they do that because you see that the way that they play nowadays.
For sure. And do you think as a result of the type of training that they're doing now that's changed the pace of the game?
Oh, the pace is quick. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you adjust to it anyway. Players in our day play nowadays, probably not everyone, but those athletes definitely could. I mean, when I came in, first athlete, but there was other great athletes too. Don't get me wrong. And I know in the late 90s when I was, flying year 2000, the recruiters were like, we're searching for 6'3", 4'5", whatever they are, athletes, and we're going to go out there and search for them. So definitely.
And then when you were training in your peak physical fitness, what would a normal week look like for an AFL athlete back then? Is it in terms of Monday what happens, Tuesday what happens?
So it was during the season. During the season, obviously Monday was a recovery, but depending on your coach, because my ladder coach was no recovery, he was a bit old school. The coach that I had at the end, but the smarter coaches, Monday was a recovery. So whether it was just a swim in the pool, and that used to be so good for your recovery, and maybe a little bit of light running, and then that way you just pep yourself right for Tuesday night, which would be a lot harder session then, because Tuesday would be the bulk of the training for the week. So you step it up on that night if you're feeling okay. Any soreness or whatever, you just back off because you want to freshen up for the game. And then Wednesday you either day off or off your legs. So it might be a bike or something like that. I used to love the bike that we used to do, the stationary bike. And then Thursday you do a lighter session, and then Friday rest, and then Saturday you play. So nothing too complicated. And then always there was 1 or 2 maybe weight session in between that. But 2 days out before a game, I wouldn't really, if I did weights, it would be very light.
Because you've just mentioned the word weights. I want to talk a little bit about that because at your prime, your physical conditioning compared to other people playing was completely different in terms of you were really well defined, you were ripped. So what were you doing in terms of weights, and how do you think that differed for you?
Always loved my weights. The first year I walked into the club at the age of 17, sort of 18, I never touched the weights. I went in the gym room and just bludged, really. But at the end of that season, I was like, if I'm going to play senior footy, I have to improve. What do I need to do? Faster, stronger, higher was the thing that I always thought. So stronger, okay, let's go, let's hit the weight. So I put on 8 or 9 kilos just instantly like that. But it affected my endurance running. I didn't realise. So that was a mistake by me. I mean, I was never taught, my parents never were like sporty. So I didn't really know. All I did was just go out there and I was like, I'm getting bigger, let's go. I'll keep getting bigger. So I always loved my weights and always did extra. I thrived on it. And then I remember Tony Doherty, he helped Ange with his back injury, and Ange Christou, missed 18 months of footy because of it. They were like, come in, go and see Tony. So Tony was a great bodybuilder. And I went to see him in 99, 2000, 2001. So like he really helped my strength without like smart strength training. It's not the beach stuff, you know what I mean? The beach stuff, you can look good, but it means you can't move. But he was enough to sort of use the power training to really help my strength in the game.
And how do you reckon having that extra strength, how do you reckon that changed you as a player?
Oh, enormously, because when you're getting tagged, you always got to find that little bit extra of, where you can beat your opponent. And I always had that strength aspect, power sort of athlete, and that's where it sort of helped, those one-on-one battles when you'll be able to just push a player off and then bang, take the mark or give him a hip and shoulder to just give you that little bit of room to be able to chase the ball. It helped me enormously. And we sort of trained that sort of way, a lot of like power stuff that we did, and that sort of emulated into the game.
Yep, for sure. So you talked about power. One thing that's obviously differentiated you as well, which is so interesting, was your ability to pick up the ball with one hand.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's ever been done since.
Very
rarely is it done.
I think there was Brennan from Brisbane who did it, Jared Brennan.
Yep.
That was just something my brother and I, my older brother Paul and I did ever since we were young kids. My brother Paul, he received a letter from his primary school teacher in grade 6, so Kouta name started early, the only kid to pick up the footy with one hand. And so he did it, I did it, I didn't even know I did it. And it just sort of emulated in the games. And the first time I did it was round 21, 1992 in the senior game, I should say.
Yep.
That was against Collingwood. Jamie Turner was next to me. I just shrugged him off and just grabbed the ball one hand, and I kicked it down, and Tom Alvin marked it, who then passed it on to Dorridge, and we kicked the goal. But everyone after the game and that night was talking about me picking up the ball one hand. And I said, did I? I didn't even realise until later on. And even David Parkin spoke to me the next day and said, I've been waiting 30 years to see someone do what you did yesterday. So I got known as that, and it was something that people, I think, loved.
Absolutely. I think one interesting thing which made you different as well, which I remember growing up as a kid watching, was your ability to hold the ball in one hand from the top, so not underneath you, from the top, but then also have your spare hand to fully shrug off other players.
Yeah, I'd even change sometimes hands of the ball depending if there was players there, not even knowing actually, it was part of my game. So anytime it rained, I would be sitting there going, not sure if I can play in these conditions, because obviously I knew that I played a lot of my footy just holding the ball in one hand, and if it was wet, rainy conditions, it was always going to be a little bit tougher, but it's just the way I sort of learnt how to play the game.
Yep. So playing the game, what do you think's changed over the years with the game?
Well, obviously now it's a bit more, keeping's off possession, a lot more structure and strategy, and there's a lot of plays around the ball. It's not like back in our day, free flowing. I love the game of footy. So my oldest son Jamie, he's never liked footy ever since he was a young kid, but he watched one Anzac game in 1995 game where they replayed it maybe 2-3 years ago on television, and for him to say, Dad, if actually footy was like this nowadays, I'd probably watch it. Then the game has changed.
Absolutely.
Because I've always been a lover of the game. But if I'm going to look back, I think the 80s and 90s probably produced some of the best footy that you'll ever see.
For sure.
And you might agree too. Maybe not everyone will out there, but they're just so good to watch, those games.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, because I remember growing up, I don't know whether it was just because I was a kid or not, but watching footy in the 90s was the best thing. You know what I mean? You had characters, you had awesome players, you had all of these exciting things happening. And I don't know whether it's just now, because obviously we've got distractions, we've got so many other things with technology and what have you, but I just find that myself and a lot of my mates, we just don't watch footy as much as we did anymore, and there's just not that same passion and excitement.
I think if you brought maybe the 4 best players back in the 90s and the 4 best players now, and you stood them in the city of Melbourne, like if you had Carey and Dunstall and Ablett and Lockett, and you stood them Swanson Street in the city of Melbourne, and you got the 4 best now, there would have been an uproar back in our days in the 90s, you know what I mean, compared to now.
So one of the things which also made you a great player was your ability to play in a range of different positions. So how do you think that helped you, being able to play in so many variety of positions and succeed in all of them?
It probably helped, but didn't help. At the end of the day, I get comparisons to some of the current players or whatever it is, but I never played midfield my whole career. You can't compare me to someone who played at midfield their entire career, because I was like a patch-up player almost. It's like, okay, we haven't got a full forward this week. Kouta, you play full forward. And the next week was like, you play on the wing. Actually, we need you in defence. And halfway through the game, geez, we're getting beaten out of the middle, get into the midfield or go to the forward. And it was a bit like that. So as good as it was a lot of the things really for the sake of the team.
Yep.
And when I look back and I think, what if I wasn't playing on the wing and actually played in the midfield? But then that means one of the guys that we had in there who probably couldn't play as good on the wing would have, missed out, and I could have actually shown maybe more of my potential, because some of the big games I played, I was on the wing, I mean, I took 18 marks against West Coast.
Yep.
So I think of that, I guess, I always put team first, and everyone should anyway.
Yep.
I don't really have regrets, but I always think, you compare me, but, I got thrown everywhere, and that included in the ruck too. So
for sure.
Kouta, you start there, but then later you're going to ruck around the ground and,
Yep.
So I did it, and look, it was a great experience for me. I think when I first was down at the club, David Parker wasn't sure where to play me because I was, an athlete, but I don't know. It probably just took them a little bit of time and myself to really realise where to play.
Yeah, for sure. So playing in so many different positions, do you think that gave you much more insight to the game in terms of being able to read the play by having experience in those different positions?
Yeah. I think so. I always felt like I had a lot to give back to football because I understood how to play mid, forward, back, ruck, every position. And understood how to tag someone and also then get tagged. So, you know what I mean? It's very rare for someone to come out and say, he's played in every position on the ground, which I was able to do. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it because it was good fun. But there was days I would have loved to have just played solely in the midfield,
Yeah, for sure. And then back to your fitness. What was your off-season training? Did you do a lot of stuff in the off-season?
Not early on. The first year I think I had 3 weeks off, and then because the seniors didn't make finals, and then we made it to the prelim. No, I had 1 week off, and then I started. So all the other off seasons we just drank. You know what I mean? It was a bit like that. It was our culture, and it wasn't about coming back fit. It was about then working yourself towards getting fit, and we trained hard. In particular, after the grand final, I put on 8 kilos because we celebrated that much, and I think we deserved it because
for sure.
You don't often win a grand final or premiership, and I'm glad I did it. Although you think it didn't help at the start of 1996, but we didn't really train too much in the off season. But later part of my career, I knew then as I got older that I then had to come to footy training in a lot better shape than what I had previously. So the latter part, I'd continue to just do that little bit of running or whatever it was, weights, to just keep the body in tune.
Do you reckon that sort of, I guess, is how footy's changed also in a way, in the sense that you're talking about, when it was off-season, it was off-season. You didn't train, whereas I feel like today they've only got maybe a month break, after their last game, and then they're straight back into pre-season.
Yeah, they
whereas at least you had the ability, like you said, to have a few drinks and to let yourself go for a little bit.
I always found the drinking part was great for me because the hard work, we went to war on the ground, and the pressures throughout the week was great to then go and release yourself. So the boys unfortunately can't do that. But they get a lot of time off now, in particular the senior guys that have been around for a little while. I think after 5 years they get a certain amount of time. 10 years, they've got a lot of time off. They really do now, compared to us in our day. We might have got 6 weeks off or 8 weeks or whatever. Now they get more, 12 weeks, I'm not sure, but they're a lot better in what they do because they keep themselves in shape and don't drink like we used to. It's just a completely different culture. I never drank until I got to the footy club, but if I didn't drink back then I would have probably been like an outsider, but I really did enjoy it, and it bonded the players, and we hadn't I got to play in the most incredible era. For sure,
I couldn't agree more. And it's probably so different as well. Is you could probably have a few drinks, at least after the game or even during the week, without fear of it being captured on social media and put out there to the world.
Nowadays, I think some of the things we would have done back then, we would have gotten all sorts of trouble, but. It's just a different era. It was just a different time, and we just had an absolute ball. Melbourne was fun to be, to go out and see people, and there was very rarely any trouble, and we just had a lot of great times and great memories from those days.
For sure. And you spoke before about the 95 grand final. So what was that like? Running out on the MCG, 110,000 people, and then obviously winning the grand final.
If I turn back the clock a bit over a year before that, it was halfway through 94. I got dropped for 2 games. I thought it was the end of my career, in all honesty. So I came back, they played me on the wing, and I never looked back from that point onwards. But I went to see a sports psychologist, Anthony Stewart. So in hindsight, I'm very lucky I continued, because I think at that time there I thought, oh God, it's the end. I'm not sure if I can keep going like this anymore. But luckily I did, because 1995 was the greatest year of my life. We only lost 2 games for the entire year. We came into the grand final not even as favourites, actually. Geelong were favourites, but we had the confidence within ourselves to know that we can go all the way. And we almost lost the qualifying final to Brisbane. It was a very close game. I kicked, luckily, Chris Scott killed me that day, but they threw me to full forward, and I kicked, I think Sticks kicked the first one, I kicked the next 3. It was just enough for us to win by 16 points, I think it was. Then North Melbourne we thrashed. So we came into the Geelong game. I was extremely nervous. Half-time we had a convincing lead. Halfway through last quarter, I stood on the MCG looking around going, 90,000 people thought, wow, I'm about to be a premiership player here. That's when I knew. I mean, you sort of knew but didn't. It was just like, there's no way now. This is no way they can do anything here. And it was the most amazing feeling in my life. Still to this day, that feeling like you can never replace. And luckily I was able to do it once. And I thought I'd probably do it 2 or 3 more times before I retire, but it wasn't the case. And so I'm very, very lucky that I got to experience one. For all the heartache, blood, sweat and tears that you go through, it's worth it for this one day in September.
And what was that like? Like, I mean, what happened in the rooms at halftime? Was there a pep talk? What was the emotions in the room at the time?
Not sure. I know I went in like thinking we got a good lead, but it's not over.
Yeah.
I'd love to say that I thought it was game over, but there was that halftime scuffle when Billy Brownless grabbed Ange after the sign had that scuffle, and I jumped in and everyone jumped in, and it was the melee going on there. So I was exhausted at halftime, like just thinking, why would I just do that for? But look, I don't know. I can't really recall what it was like at halftime. I can't recall really at 3/4 time. All I remember was, halfway through that last quarter, just standing around, just looking around, going, I just can't believe what's about to happen.
Yeah, for sure. Pure emotions, I'm sure, as well.
Yes.
Now, throughout your career, you had a range of injuries as well, which obviously put you out of the game.
Yeah.
What were some of the injuries you had, and what was that like having those injuries?
In '99, I had the most incredible year at centre half back and pretty much beat everyone except for probably Richo, who was my toughest opponent. I missed the last 5. I don't know, I stretched my knee or whatever it was, my left one. But then made it back for the finals, which was great. Then 2000, just in rare form, round 20 against Essendon, 90,000 people home and away game. They were on top. We were second, first 10 minutes. I don't know. Jason Johnson came across my knee and I snapped my posterior. Took me 9 months to recover from that, and with the swelling, it's supposed to be a 6-week injury, but I tried to get back for finals. Probably didn't help. Got back and played, and then just found some incredible form again late 2001, and second week in the final after being best on ground the week before. I went to kick the ball off the ground. Matty Knights came across my knee and snapped my anterior and medial, and I missed, pretty much. Then the next year, because the boys were really on the bottom, the club needed me to play, and I played 3 weeks with a brace, and that third week went to spoil the ball, slipped over, and Jason Sannington landed on my knee and snapped my medial. So I had those sort of injuries, really. And then 2004, I think it was the weakness of my hamstring from my tendon that they replaced on my anterior for my knee, that I missed 10 weeks, came back, they played me for a full game, didn't even recover. I think it was the Tuesday night at training, felt it again. It was a lot of scar tissue just from not being strong enough in the hamstring muscle, and so then I missed another 4. So had quite a few injuries in my time.
Yep. And how did you, I guess, recover from that? Like in terms of, it's obviously a big psychological step to have an injury, to be at your peak fitness, to be playing at AFL level and then to have an injury. What was that like to try and, from that sort of mindset perspective? Yeah,
we had a great rehab, back then, Peter Schockman and these other 2 younger guys that we had there. And that helped me, it helped me mentally as well to just, be happy and see the guys, and we trained together, and I did a lot of leg weights, and I got back. Each time I always thought I could get back into my best form that I could. The last knee injury, in 2003, Dennis Pagan came, and his guys, and our training went like old school again. So after missing 3 years, it's probably not the training that I needed. That time I needed to pep myself up with a lot of speed training and the way they train now. But unfortunately, we turned back the clock and trained like when we did in the early 90s. So that didn't sort of help my sharpness when everyone else was training like athletes. We trained a little bit different. So I'll never know if I could have come back to at least close to the form that I did, and the game plan was completely different too. So there's a lot of factors that come into play.
For sure.
I'm not sure if it's luck or timing, and I'm sure that all comes into play too.
Absolutely. Now, I know you mentioned that you've had it was an ACL, your medial, and also your posterior. Like I've had a knee reconstruction, I've had an ACL that's gone, and I know that even after my injury, it's just never been 100% the same.
Yep.
So, how was yours going back after having those reconstructions from the knee injury?
Yep.
And do you feel it changed you as a player?
Yeah, it never felt 100% when I came back. I played with the brace, but then the next year, after tearing the medial, I never felt 100%. I always never had that flexibility, had that tightness to it. But look, by the end of my career, I always strapped it up. There was occasional swelling if I wasn't careful. So it was never the same, you know what I mean? But I'm pretty lucky nowadays I can still run and do all that.
Yep.
But if I play footy and I tend to kick the ball really hard, then that sort of motion tends to get it, and I've seen it swell before. So now I just strap it up. So there's always the ramifications from injuries.
For sure. And you still play? You still run around?
Still play over 35s. Not that I should really. I've snapped my tendon off my bicep. It looks ridiculous. And But every year I say I'm not playing, and then every year I play. You know what I mean? It's that love of just getting out there, having a kick. Maybe I can't get over it. Maybe I'm a big kid. I don't know what it is, but somehow it draws me to just continue to keep playing.
For sure. And you just mentioned before about sort of like the differences in the styles of training that you're doing. And you said, like, back in the day, you said Dennis Pagan moved you more to an old school style of training. What was that sort of, what you consider to be old school style training versus what they do now?
Just that longer distance running, as we spoke about before in the early 90s, you know what I mean? That one pace running, you don't have that sharpness of speed and all that stuff that the game was about. So that quick movements and so,
Yep. So what advice would you then give now to any other current footballers, or more so younger footballers now that are listening, to try and get into peak physical, footy shape?
I think they're a lot smarter in the way they train now. I mean, they're smarter, they're shorter sessions, but intense. There's a lot of recovery, and I think that's important, that you get a short period of time to build up your base, and that's in the pre-season. Come season time, it's then hard to then... You can still do it back in our day. I'm not sure nowadays if it's a lot harder, but back in our day you could, but it took a lot of time. But... you've got to be smart and understand your body in that too. And if there's times to really back off. See, I talk to people too, and they train so hard, but sometimes I say a day off is just as important as a hard session.
Yep.
Just to recuperate the body mentally too.
Yep.
So there's a balance to everything. And I watch kids when they were young train so hard that they were burnt out by the time they were 18. So it's a tough one. The young kids out there want to train hard. Read Kobe Bryant. He used to train every day. I'm not sure. He was maybe a freak. But I always say you still need rest to have that sharpness come game time also. Yep.
And is there any top exercises that you recommend to improve your speed? Because you're pretty quick back in the day.
Any sorry what?
Exercises or tips to improve your speed.
Yeah, there's always the band training. There's the speed of your legs. So there's running drills that you can do. The plyometric stuff's really important for power. So it's the old school athletic sort of way of training. Not to say old school, because they've obviously, become a lot better then, and I'm probably not up to date with it all, but I still know how to do all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously a big component of what what any sort of athlete has to focus on is nutrition.
Yeah.
So what was nutrition like, back in the 90s and 2000s at an elite footy club?
Basically, the nutrition was eat whatever you want back then, and that's what I did. I had mum, Italian lady, cooked for me all the time, and pasta. And the thing was, back then it was the day before, the night before, it's pasta, and so I just had that ever since I remember as a young kid. I'm not sure if they do the same now, but in the morning of the game, mate, all I did was have toast with some jam and honey. I never felt like really eating when I was young. I was so nervous, but I know I still ate all the, occasionally ate the junk foods when I was younger, but this is what I do know from learning that stuff there is high calories and no nutrition.
Yep. Hence
the reason why sometimes I probably went to training feeling a bit like flat, you know what I mean? But because genetically I could stay in shape because of the amount of running and that we did, it didn't really matter what we ate. But now I realise even more that back then, if I could turn back the clock, I'd probably be a lot smarter with what I did, but that's all, we knew. Drank a lot, ate afterwards, did all that sort of stuff, but that's what we were like back then.
And then what about, say, game day? Well, did you have nutritionists at all, like that were there, that were helping out?
Yeah, no, not so much there, but we had nutritionists at the club, and they sort of told us, what to eat or whatever. I mean, you used to take their advice, but sort of didn't too. And
for sure.
I mean, different if I had, high skin folds and I needed to strip down, I'd always, go to them. But there were times of periods where, I had to, like after the grand final in 96, I had to lose weight, you know what I mean? So I had to get a bit more strict on food. But when I got strict on food, I got hungry and felt a bit lacking energy. So it was just a fine line of making sure we're feeding the body enough. What I know now is that to feed the body every few hours would have been a smarter thing for me to do if I knew that back then.
Yep.
Obviously now I've learned a lot more and could have obviously helped my game back then. But
So knowing what you know now, if you could transport, your knowledge and your brain back into you at your peak physical fitness, what would you do differently?
I think now the supplements are important, the recovery shakes. It's about fueling that body within that first 20 to 30 minutes with some really good nutrition to get it going and get it moving. Always cleansing that inside, and the healthy choices of the foods is going to be a big one now. In particular, athletes, their skin folds get tested all the time, so they've got to be careful in what they eat. Yeah,
for sure. And what are you doing at the moment in terms of your exercise, because you're still in pretty good shape?
Yeah.
What are you doing? What's your routine like now?
Not a lot. If we turn back the clock a year or two ago, I was doing a lot more than what I was doing now. Unfortunately, the body's starting to just break down a little. But I hit the gym. I do my leg weights there. Try to do core sessions when I can, and just my sprint sort of training, running. Or if I don't have a lot of time, I just go for 20, 30-minute runs. I don't do a lot just to stay in shape, because my philosophy is now the nutrition part that's more important
For
than
sure.
even the training. But the training, mentally, for the shape, for how I feel after and all that, the training, I would hate to even imagine stop training, you know what I mean? Because I feel good by doing it.
Mm-hmm. So how important is it for you to be physically fit, to, you know, continually exercise and to eat the right, you know, food?
I want to do it for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I admire Tom Hafey back in his day and admire the fact that he used to go to the beach every day and whatever. I want to be the next version of Tommy that's try to stay in shape for the rest of my life. It's something that I've always loved. When I stopped playing footy, I still trained. You know what I mean? I felt guilty if I didn't, even if it was only 3 times a week. So I still want to be able to train, hopefully, barring the body allowing, that I'll continue to do that.
And so let's move now to more in your business at the moment now. So you've started a new business called Koutafit.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Khudafit's all incorporated with the Herbalife nutrition that I've been involved with now for quite a while. I mean, we're opening up lifestyle centres. But what we do, we're a community to bring people in, educate them about the importance of exercise, which we say is 20%, 80% about nutrition, 100% mindset. So that concept now we've been doing for 8.5 years. I had a lot of Kouta clubs back in the day, 30-odd, where it were communities, 50, 100 people. That became a little bit too demanding for me to try to control it all. And so now bringing people into our lifestyle centres like tonight, and people will be listening to this podcast tonight, as in when we're doing this podcast, we have a sports nutrition night too. People get overcomplicate things, you know, keto, diet, this diet, whatever. Man, let's not complicate it. It's not that complicated, you know what I mean?
For sure.
Do I weigh my food? When do I eat? How much do I eat? Do I eat bread? Do I eat pasta? Let's enjoy life.
For sure.
And find something that's sustainable is what I believe in.
It's all about that balance, isn't it?
100%.
And so you mentioned before that part of your philosophy now at Koutafit is 80% nutrition, 20% exercise, 100% mindset. I want to delve into a little bit more about the mindset of what it takes, you know, to push through boundaries, to get, you know, to push yourself and your physical fitness beyond those boundaries so you can, you know, achieve your goals. Yeah.
So if I turn back to the clock to when I was playing footy, mate, that was important. Obviously, we trained hard. I had goals I wanted to achieve. They were playing with elite, you know, competing with elite people. Nowadays, it's completely different. The mindset component for me is having the right attitude. You come to our community, hey, whatever happens outside, let's blue skies, let's be, you know, happy. You know, I want to create positive environments. People look forward to coming in. Work can be negative. Sometimes your home can be negative. A lot of negativity.
For sure.
So the mindset's important with our people here, in my business and our coaches. And the importance of doing personal development in the morning, positive, at night personal development. So it's all that to just get the mindset right, because I struggled when I finished footy. Like I had down periods. I thought maybe I'd walk into footy again. You know, the club didn't open the door for me. No one did in the AFL. And so I was a little bit lost with what I was doing. And so I'm glad I found a community that I loved, and I understand the importance of mindset, because no matter how strong or tough you are, the mental illness part can really affect anyone. No one's safe from it.
So any tips for fostering that mindset?
I think communities. You know, find communities or friends or mentors if you like. See, I train, I know what to do, but I still love having a mentor or training partner or a PT to guide me through a session.
For sure.
Because I think it's important. They lift the bar. Otherwise, I tend to just go with, you know, the flow. So those sort of things, community is a big one.
For sure.
Opinion.
It's
and a positive one though, positive.
Yeah, absolutely. So you just mentioned before about, obviously, you know, you're one of the greatest AFL players, yet you didn't seem to get involved with footy as much as, you know, what people would have assumed after. Why do you think that is?
Not sure. I went to Carlton. I offered my services for nothing, but I don't know, there was nothing there. Went to the AFL. I wanted to get involved with the Australian Institute of Sport, because I love that stuff, the fitness and nutrition. I want to help these kids develop. They said they didn't really have funds for it, but then they employed a couple of 2 players about 3 months later. So I don't know, mate. How do you know? You know what I mean? I gave my heart and soul. Number one to the footy club. I walked in when I was 14, left when I was 34, and gave my heart and soul to the AFL. Never really did anything wrong, but for whatever reason, I'm not sure. Like all of us, mate, I'm not here to, you know, sook or moan about it. But, you know, it affected me, yes.
For sure.
But we move on, and, you know, and I'm sure other people have had worse things happen than what I've had, you know. So it's not a problem.
Do you miss not being involved in that elite level?
Probably in some ways. Like, there's always, I guess, a little hole in my heart because footy was such a big part of my life, my family life. You know, so there's always probably a missing link there, maybe without even realising. So, yeah, because you feel like you got so much to give that maybe, you know, would have been nice to have given back a little bit too. But it's not the case, then, you know what I mean, I had to move on.
For sure. So with your business now with khudafit, so what does that look like for people that want to get involved?
Well, obviously I have a lifestyle centre in Malvern, and they can follow me on social media. It's probably the easiest way there, where I do, you know, training tips and my advice on health, nutrition, mindset, you know, all these exercise, all that stuff that I do. So basically we're expanding. I've been involved now, you know, the Herbalife Nutrition through Pacific Rim Marketing Group now for over 8 years. And we're building these lifestyle centres. We had an incredible few years of absolute crazy growth, and I believe now we're about to go through our second phase of it now again. So looking for people that are health conscious, coachable, you know what I mean, that want to get involved with communities in that as well.
For sure.
And if that's someone out there, by all means hit me up. Come and look at what we do. There's part-time income to get involved with, or if you want career level income, takes obviously harder work.
For sure.
That's all.
Yep. And you mentioned just before the word coach, and obviously that's a big part of what you're doing now with your business, and obviously it's a massive part of football as well. So how important was it for you to have a coach that, you know, was able to get the best out of you?
Incredibly important. You know, my parents didn't know anything about footy. My brothers and my family, greatest support that I had. But then I had, you know, good mates. But then it was Barry Mitchell and Wayne Britton that taught me more about footy than anyone else. So without them, I never would have had the heights of footy that I got to enjoy. It was mainly because they had the belief in me, taught me some things that other coaches never could. You know what I mean? So mentors, coaches are important. You can't see me here, but you know, I'm working with someone who's been part of this business now for 30 years. So he's my coach here. Do you know what I mean? So I need a coach too. As good as I feel like I am, and I've got leadership qualities and all that. Sometimes I need the coach for a little bit of a phone call, pep up talk to go, mate, keep going, or whatever it is.
For sure. And
that's why I think it's always important, no matter who you are, what you are, coaching, you know, mentor is a great part of it.
Was there any sort of key or pivotal moments you can remember from your time in your career where a coach said something or changed the way that you played that really got the best out of you?
I went to see a sports psychologist in '94 after I got dropped. His name was Anthony Stewart. And the words I will, you just watch me. He told me to write them down in my diary, highlight them every single day. And I did that. Those words had a major impact on me and changed my life. So Anthony Stewart, I have, you know, a lot to, you know, to give back to him. I owe him a lot, because he was just, in a time when I was down in the dumps, I went to see him, man, and he just lifted me very, very quickly.
So is that sort of what you'd share from your experience in terms of, like you said, fostering that creative mindset or that positive mindset to push through and reach new levels?
100%. And if I do a lot of talks now, because it's not just I'm a young kid, 20 years old, pretending I know everything by reading a book. I've been through life experiences, ups and downs and obstacles and tough times, and you look at the record and go, mate, how easy was that? He's had a great career, but I'll talk you through some of the tough times of the choices as young kids, you know, what you have to do in order to get there, to become that player that I have to be able to achieve at the end of my career. It takes a lot of hard work and a lot of ups and downs and unsure and all that stuff, and the mindset's a big one. So I do a lot of talks about that sort of stuff also.
For sure. So obviously with coaching, you're coaching a lot of people now. You've obviously been the recipient of a lot of, you know, advice from coaches, plus you're also a Carlton captain for a couple of years. So what have you learned from your experience of being a captain and being in a leadership position?
I don't know, like I've learned a lot of things from different styles of coaching. And see, to me, I got the best out of myself when a coach will actually put their arm around me and encouraged me more so than, rah, 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 rah.
Yep.
So it's about being a manager, you know what I mean? And so each person, there's some people in my team of coaches that I know I can go, mate, da-da-da-da-da. He takes it on board, he goes. But there's someone else, if I go rah-da-da-da-da, they turn around and go, look, I'm out of here.
Yep.
So I think leadership qualities, we've all got leadership qualities in us, but how I coach and guide is individual to everyone. And I think the more experience you get, the better you become at it. I'm not perfect. Don't get me wrong. There's sometimes I probably could go a little bit hard and I don't. But the management style, I think, is really important.
Yeah, for sure. And then we'll start to wrap up now. So obviously, it's a couple of other things that you've done in more recent times post-footy, Dancing with the Stars, which you won. Tell us about that.
Look, it was a great experience. I won't be allowed to do it again. I know that because the wife won't let me. But look, I was at least favourite to win, and I don't know how I got through every week. I was in the bottom two, probably 4 weeks out of the 10 or whatever it was. Got myself into the grand final. There was a lot of stuff about Ariane. She was a female world chess champion. She denied the fact that she'd ever done dancing before, but you could tell the way she dances. She was so good, way better than me. But somehow, I don't know, I went on to win that. So look, it was a great experience for me. Had a lot of fun. In the series was Chris Hemsworth too. I mean, he's an absolute megastar now, movie star, mate, earns millions. Andrew Gaze, who's probably one of my favourite people of all time, you know what I mean? Like, just a wonderful guy, and just met some other great people during that series.
Yep. And what did you learn from dancing? Was there anything you took away from it?
Oh, the dancing... I always wanted to learn, the back of my head, always wanted to learn how to dance, didn't know where to start, what to do. So I learned a lot of stuff, a lot of different dances, but it was that long ago now, that I completely forgot how to dance. I dare say if I got my dance partner and she just went out there and we said, rightio, this, that, I'd probably pick it up like that.
Yep.
And I'll be able to do it. But I can't. It's been that long.
Yep. And also Gladiator.
Yeah.
That was another thing. I remember that the original series in the early 90s. Used to love it. And then obviously you were part of the reboot.
Yeah.
What was that like?
I was a big fan of the first one too. I thought we'd be able to replicate what they did, because they were like stars back in the day.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, global financial crisis hit at that sort of time, so Channel 7 pulled the plug on it. But we got like great viewers, like a lot of people were watching the show. And that was another thing. We stayed away from the family quite a bit. You know, it was a 3-month thing where we trained for 6 weeks and did the show for 6 weeks. It was a great experience, and just different characters of gladiators and the competitors that came up against us and that as well. Look, physically demanding on the body, because the training aspect was really tough. But definitely another great experience to be able to do those sort of things.
For sure.
And every time, like, you know, all the other shows that we do, watch or whatever, people just go, be great celebrities. Well, you know what? At the end of the day, they're great experiences, you know what I mean? They just that different time, and it has an impact on your life.
For sure. And you mentioned before about Andrew Gaze, and you look up to these people. Who do you look up to? Who inspires you?
Now?
Or we'll start with back then when you were playing footy, and then also now.
Back when I was playing footy, as a young kid, I was a Collingwood supporter, so a lot of the Collingwood players, early on. After that, I walked into a club that had so many great leaders around, so I sort of just copied their leadership qualities or some of the good things that I liked that I thought I could emulate also. So I'm not sure as a person, that I admired as a young kid. I loved Carl Lewis, Patrick Schoberg, because he was a high jumper, Javier Sotomayor, like Colin Jackson, who was a hurdler. So all these sort of athletes that I loved. And then, of course, the 1988 100-metre Olympic final in Seoul was the greatest race of ever, but it was a lot of drug cheating and all that. But as a young kid, so I'm not sure like who I really admired. I think I always respected everyone. Don't get me wrong, but always just wanted to be myself. For
sure. And then how about now? Who do you look up to?
I have a lot of mentors now in the business that I do. So I work closely with them. From the guy that sponsored me into the business, who's been able to be very successful, to everyone else that we go around the world and basically train and learn from other people that have done it before us and have paved the way. So if I mention names, you probably won't know them, so I won't. And then if you could give advice to your younger self, whether it's footy, non-footy, life advice, knowing what you know now, what would it be and why? It's about having fun. I think when you enjoy something and you love something with a passion, you'll get the best out of yourself. If you're not enjoying it, you won't ever produce the best. So whatever it is that you're doing, and things are going to be hard, there'll be good days, bad days, whatever, just keep persisting at towards your dream. And, even if you don't make it to where you want to, that experience alone might then find something else that you get to love and fulfill your life afterwards.
For sure. And what's something you'd like to do more of, and what's stopping you from doing it?
More of? Oh, that's a good question. Well, I travel quite a bit. I see my family quite a bit. I don't know. Love to maybe train more if the body allowed me to. I'd love to be able to get into the best shape of my life if the body... but I'm not sure other than that. Not sure.
And advice for young kids that are listening to this, that want to make AFL?
Oh yeah, like what I said before. Have fun. Have fun. Enjoy the journey. I miss my days of playing junior football down at Lola Football Club. There I forged a lot of friendships there and had great times there. But just enjoy the process. The guys that I play with in the under-19s at Carlton, still fond memories, So just enjoy the process.
And what's next for you? Where do you see yourself in 5-10 years' time?
I'll still be doing what I'm doing now, health and nutrition, lifestyle centres, whatever it is that it takes us doing this journey. I'm going to go out there and try to, help people get healthier and happier. And hopefully I've already changed a lot of lives, but impact many, many more lives
for sure
along the journey.
And where can people find you? Social media, websites, where can they go to find you?
Social media, Instagram, Anthony Koutoufides. I've got a public Facebook page, Anthony Koutoufides. They're two of the most main things that I use, and they can hit me up, inbox me at any stage. I'm on Twitter, but I just share whatever I've got on Instagram over Twitter, so I'm not a big one on there.
Awesome. Well, I'll put all of those links in the show notes as well for you to follow. So, Anthony, thank you for your time today. Really appreciate it. It's been really informative. So, thank you for your time.
Pleasure. Great to be here.
You
Thanks
too.
for the opportunity.
No worries. Thank you.